All right, so let's get started with making your first Google class. So we are at classroom.google.com, the homepage for Google Classroom. This is where all your classes are going to live, the ones that you are a part of and the ones that you have created. So it is super simple to create your first class. You're going to click on this plus sign in the top right corner and click on Create Class. Now, for some reason you do not see this option, please let me know because you may not have gotten put into the system as a teacher. The first time you come to Google Classroom, it should ask you if you're a teacher or student, and then we have to approve you as a teacher. So if for some reason you don't see that option, just let me know. When I click Create Class, I'm given 3 quick things to fill in. The first one is my class name, and it's the only thing that's required. You want to make sure you give each class a unique name. You can come back and rename these things and adjust them, but you want to start off with a strong name. Then under section and subject, you are welcome to put a section and put a subject, but that is completely up to you. So I'm going to put science, and then I'm going to click create. As soon as I click create, my class gets created and a few other things happen in the background. So as soon as this class gets created, we're going to actually jump over to Google Drive and see what has happened with our class. So this is my class. We'll come back here in just a second. What I'm actually going to do is go back to my home page. So I'm going to click my 3 little lines here and click on the classes button. Now these 3 little lines that I said, this little menu that pops up, allows you to switch between your classes while you're here. So anywhere you are in Google Classroom, you can switch between those classes. All right. Now that I'm back on my home page, I want to show you some of the options that you have for this home page. To start, you can move your classes around and rearrange them in any order you want by just clicking and dragging on the courses. You also have a little options menu on each class where you can edit the names or you can archive it. Now, classes do not go away forever when you click archive. They just go over here under the main menu into archived land down here at the bottom. From there, you can delete them or you can restore them. So it's a really good idea to archive classes at the end of a year and clean up your Google Classroom, but they don't go away forever. They are still there if you need to pull them back out for any reason. Now, the other thing that happens when you create a Google Classroom is that you get a Google Classroom folder in your Google Drive. So as soon as I created this class, this little folder was activated. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. You'll see where it takes me. We're going to go into my Google Drive. And what you'll notice is that in my Google Drive, Google has created for me a classroom folder. Inside of that classroom folder, they've put a class for MMS Science 1. Now, all of my students will have this folder. Any of my co-teachers will have this folder. And I have folders actually for every single one of my classes. So everything I have done, all of the assignments for these classes are contained within these folders. Let's take a look at our Certified Educator class. These are the assignments that I've posted. I did not make these folders. They are automatic. And you'll see when you post an assignment later on that these things happen as soon as you create that assignment. When you create an assignment and assign an actual document or someone turns something into that place, you're going to see what they've turned in that folder. So you kind of get an idea of what that looks like. So do not delete this classroom folder. Do not rename it. Do not move it. This classroom folder is critical to making sure Google Classroom works correctly. All right, now let's go back to our class and let's work on some setup. So I'm going to open it up. There's a few basic things you'll want to do when you start your class. First, you got to make it pretty. So on the right, you can select a theme, and that will affect the color and kind of the style of your entire Google Classroom. So you can go through and look at some of the different themes. There's also patterns here, and whatever you choose affects the color of the whole class. So make sure you like it. You can also upload your own photo if you'd like. Now we're going to come back to the stream later on in the videos because this is really where all the classwork and everything is going to appear. So we'll come back here. We're going to talk about setting up the About section of your classroom. This is where you kind of think of the syllabus page or the home page of resources. This is a great place to put any materials that students need to access all the time. because that stream is going to be filled with assignments and be changing all of the time. So if there's a website or a document that your students need access to, this is where you put it. So all you do is click Add Class Materials. And if you have a website that students are going to use all the time, Study Island, for instance, you'll just click this little link button, type in the name of the website or copy and paste it, and click Add Link. Now you'll notice when I click Post, this will move down as I add materials. I can also add videos, items from my Google Drive, and any other kind of attachment. This is a really great place to put your syllabus, to put websites you use frequently. It's really phenomenal to just help your kids get back to this kind of home page. Now on the left, you'll see links to your class drive folders. That's where we just were in Google Drive. Your classroom calendar, which looks just kind of simple, a simple calendar that'll show assignments and when things are due. And remember, students see this too, so this can be really helpful for them. And then you also can invite teachers from this page. So when you invite a teacher, they can do everything in the class except for delete the class. This is great for co-teachers or when more than one of you are working together on a class. Now, once you've got your About page set up, it's time to invite your students. And there's two ways that you can do that. The first way is if you know their email addresses, you can invite them by email address. Some of you are invited to our Certified Educator course like this. If you don't know their email addresses, you can get them to just join by going to classroom.google.com and typing in the class code. So this is my automatically generated class code. If I don't like it, I can reset it and change it, and it will keep changing. And then I can actually use this little display button to make it really big and put it on the screen for everybody to join. If you've decided everybody's in your class and you're done, you do not want them to join anymore, you can disable that code so that nobody else can join. The very next little box is an important little setting you might want to consider. This changes whether or not students can post or comment on your stream. So I'd really encourage you to leave it so the students can comment, ask questions, and participate in your class, but it's up to you. You might be in a situation where only teachers need to post or comment. Now, there is another button up here we're not going to get too deep into, but you can invite guardians. So let me show you what that looks like in our Certified Educator course. I'm going to jump over. After students are in your course, you can invite their parents or guardians. Everyone can have 2 invited. And what happens, they don't have full access to your class, but they get a weekly or a daily email summary, depending on what they choose. And they're basically going to get just the gist of, oh, here's the upcoming assignments that are due. Here's what's missing for your student. Here's what they've turned in late. Here are the things that are going on this week. So it's just a generic summary of what's going on in the class. They don't actually get full access to see your course, which is nice. Now, the other thing you can do here is remove students from your class. So if somebody's joined accidentally or they've joined with the wrong name, you can actually check the box next to their name, go up to Actions, and remove them. You also notice a little mute button here. So this actually allows you, if you've got students able to post and comment and you've got one student who needs that ability removed, you can do that. You can mute them. All right. So this is kind of the gist of getting your classroom set up. We're not going to go any deeper here. Make sure you get it set up, get it shared with your students. And in the next videos, we'll talk about how to create assignments and get rolling. All right, so we have gotten our students in our class. We've got our section set up. Now we're ready to post things for our students. You're going to click this little plus sign in the bottom right-hand corner. And that's where you're going to create anything that your students see. So let's start with an announcement. An announcement is just what it sounds like, an announcement to your students. To me, an announcement doesn't say to your students, here's this thing for you to do. That is an assignment. An announcement is informational. So you can post something like, here's the syllabus, and then you can attach the syllabus here. You could attach a video, a link, or any kind of document that you choose. I'm going to choose my Google Drive, and I'm just going to attach an example document, just something I've been working on. And basically, students are just going to be able to see this document. That's all I want them to do. Hey, just FYI, here's this document. Now, I'm going to go ahead and post that. We'll talk more about all of these settings here in a second. And this is what it's going to look like for the students, just a straightforward announcement. My text is here, whatever I have linked is here, and you can link multiple things. Okay. Now, once I've got a post out here, if I don't want it there anymore, I can edit it or delete it. So just so you know, those things are available to you over here. We're going to leave them here because I'm going to show you this last one here in a second. Now we're going to talk about creating a question. Exactly what it sounds like. Here's the question. I'm going to type in a question for my students. I can give this a due date and time, unlike the announcement, because this actually would dictate something for them to do. And then if you'll notice here, I can choose what type of question that I'm going to give them. So for example, I can choose a multiple choice question. I can choose a short answer question. And then I've got a couple different options based on what I choose. Do I want students to be able to see each other's answers, reply to each other, edit their answers, that sort of thing? If I do a multiple choice, that's more like a voting, and students are actually going to see the summary of what it looks like on the class. Now, while we're here, let's talk about due dates and topics, because you're going to see this on assignments or on questions. You can assign a due date and time for any assignment or any question. Anything turned in after this due date and time is going to be marked as late. Either you, the student, may be notified that it was turned in late. It doesn't prevent students from turning it in, but it just gives them kind of an endpoint. Now, a topic. If you create a topic, so let's say this is I'm just going to call this a question. When I ask, let's see, type in some questions, answers here. Great answers. And I'm going to go ahead and ask this question. You're going to see what it looks like on my side as a teacher. I can tell when it's due. I can tell here's the question, and then I can see who's done it and not done it. On the left-hand side, I added that topic. It brings me right to the post related to that topic. So for example, you have a lot of quizzes that you post here. Every time you post a quiz, add a topic, call it quiz, and then when you need to find all of your quizzes quickly, just click on quizzes and they'll all pop up. So it just depends how you want to use the topics. You could actually use this for topics related to your class, or you can use it like I have here. Now on our Google Certified Educator class, I'm going to hop over there. On the left-hand side, what I've done is list each of our weekly assignments as topics. So you can really easily find that week's post, and they're in order so you can tell, which one to start with first. Okay. All right. So I've got my question. I've got my announcement. Let's talk about assignments. Now, I'm going to click Create Assignment. And one thing I didn't show you, but you could do on an announcement or a question or an assignment, is you can change which students see this post. So again, I'm going to jump back over to our Google Certified Educator class because I've actually got students in that class. I want you to see this. And when I create an assignment, I can actually choose to differentiate that assignment only for certain students. So I could click here and I could decide, you know what, I don't want all students to get this. I just want Amy McDowell and Beth Stribling to get this assignment. And only they would see that assignment. It's really, really nice because you're able to give a modified assignment to certain students and they will never know the difference. Okay, so choose who you're going to give your assignment to. And then you have some options here at the bottom. Now I'm going to jump back to our example class. So you definitely want to make sure that you have a title for your assignment. This is going to actually create a folder inside of this classroom's folder called whatever you name this assignment. So choose carefully, make sure that you like the name of your assignment. You are able to give students directions if they need it, the due date like we've talked about, and add a topic if you're interested in doing that. So like, let's say I'm going to give this one just a worksheet or some sort of assignment here. Now, this is where an assignment gets interesting. You can add materials to your assignment, but not in the same way as you would an announcement. So first, let's say I need students to go to National Geographic's website in order to do this assignment. So I'm just going to type in their website and add that. They're going to need that. They're also going to need some directions. So I'm going to attach from my Google Drive a presentation that they're going to need to go through. So this is what I've been doing for you all's assignments. Now, as soon as I attach a Google file, I get a different set of options here. And this is really key. So depending on what type of file I've added and what I want this assignment to be like, this is going to make all the difference in how students complete my assignment. So for example, I just need students to use this website. I just need them to use this slide presentation for their directions. They're not actually going to edit it or do anything with it. So I'm going to leave this one on students can view the file. Now I'm going to add a worksheet for them to complete. So I'm going to add this time a Google document. And I don't just want students to be able to view this file. What I want is each student to have their own copy of this file. So what will happen in Google Drive, each student is going to get this file, a copy for themselves, and their name will be attached to it. So we'll see we'll see that in just a second, but each student will actually get their own copy of that file. There is one more option. And so maybe I have a presentation and I want every student in the classroom to go in and edit this exact same presentation. What I really want is one presentation at the end, like a jigsaw method, where we can look at it all together. So I'm going to tell group 1 to work on slide 1, group 2 to work on slide 2. So in that case, I want students to all edit the same file. So choose carefully, make sure you've got all of your settings correctly, and then you can click Assign. Now, before you click Assign, you have one more option. You can actually change when that assignment gets posted. You can schedule it so that at a certain time of day, it gets posted. Now, you may want to do this if you're doing something the night before, like we often do, and your students see that you've posted it. You better believe one student is going to see that you've posted it, go in and do it. So if you don't want them to complete anything until class starts, schedule the assignment ahead of time so that it pops live right when their class starts. Now, the other thing you can do, I'm still working on this. I want to save it for later. I can save it as a draft. Now I'm going to go ahead and assign this. And then I'm going to pop over to our certified educator class to show you what it looks like when we have every student getting a copy of an assignment. So last week, I gave you an assignment for Google Sheets and Google Slides, and I did just that. Let's go back and look. I actually posted the slide presentation where everybody can view, and then I posted a Google Sheet where each of you got a copy. Now, whether you've started this assignment or not, here's what I see on the teacher side. I see every one of your names, and I see the attachments and the things that you've turned in. And even if you haven't started it yet or opened the file, I see your file. Even if you haven't turned it in to me, I see your file. Now I'm going to open up somebody that's finished. And I'm actually able to see every piece of work they've done. And you see how this put the student's name up at the top. And then I see all of their work right here. Now, in my Google Drive, to show you what that looks like, I'm going to go back to my classroom, go to my About section, and open the folder for this class. Like I've been saying all along, Google Classroom and Google Drive are talking to each other, and they're doing these things for me. I am not making these files or these folders. I'm just posting the assignment. So here's our class folder from the teacher side. Here's last week's assignment. And when I open it up, I can see everybody's work. So whether you want to get to everybody's work from your Drive or you want to get to it from Classroom, you are able to see students' work at all time. Now, the last thing I just want to show you really quickly is you can actually grade and return students' work, give them points or not. So for this assignment, I would say, let's say I'm going to give everybody 10 points. I'm going to change my point value here. And then I can give students a point value and click return. That will alert the student that I have graded their work and it is done and they need to go look at their grade. I can also make a comment on the student's work. So let's just open this one. Oops. Let's go back here. I'm going to click on the name on the left-hand side this time instead of the assignment. So when I click on the name on the left-hand side, I see that student's assignment, and then I can add comments down here at the bottom. They can reply to me. We can have a conversation back and forth. And this is a great way to kind of give students direction as they're working. They don't have to have completed the assignment for you to do this. Now, the final thing that you need to know about this, and it's hard to show this from the teacher side, is that the students can retract their work at any time until you have graded and returned it. So I often, if I see a student that needs to take their work back and make any kind of changes to it, I leave a comment for them, tell them to unsubmit, fix what they need to, and resubmit. As soon as they have turned something in, they no longer have rights to that file. They need to unsubmit it to get it back. So again, it's really hard to show, but you'll see that when you get in and add students, you kind of have a sharing permission issue back and forth. So the student owns it, then you own it, and it goes back and forth as it's turned in. So this is where you're going to see all of your student information. We'll talk a little bit more about feedback later, but that's creating an assignment. That's as simple as it is. Now we have one more thing that you need to know about, and that is reuse post. So let's say you teach 6 sections of science. You do not need to make the same assignment 6 times all day long. You just need to make it once. The second time you want to use it, you click Reuse Post, you choose the class, and then you choose the assignment. And then you can reuse that assignment in a different class. Everything will copy over. You can attach documents, different things, change the due dates, whatever you need to do, and then you can assign it to your new class. So it is really easy to take a post from one class and share it with the other. Make sure you're not, double dipping your work. You can really save a lot of time doing that. But that's creating an assignment. It's that simple. All right, so we're going to talk specifically in this video about giving feedback and comments to students. And I think it's really important that you understand there's a lot of different ways for you to share feedback with students in Google Classroom and in Google Drive. So I'm going to use last week's assignment as an example again. And I mentioned when I was in this assignment page from the teacher side that I could click on a student's name and I could leave them comments here. So the student and I can have a little conversation back and forth this way. But there is another way for me to give that student feedback on their work, whether they've completed it or not. So I'm going to open up Mark's again, and I'm actually opening up his actual file. So there are a couple different things that I'm going to see here that are really useful to me when I'm grading or looking at the work of a student. So I'm in the file, and I don't actually want to change his file. I don't want to tell him, you should have done this differently or that differently. I want to just leave a little comment for him. So it does look a little bit different depending on what type of file that you're in, but pretty much in all files, you're going to have the ability to insert a comment. Now in a Google Sheet, it looks a little bit different just because you're not going to see the bubble kind of out to the side, but I'm going to go to Insert and Comment, and it's going to mark that cell that I'm clicked in yellow, and I'm going to leave him a comment. Now we can actually have a conversation back and forth on this comment thread. So he could then open this up, reply to me, and we could go back and forth. And I'll actually get notifications, and so will Mark. When I comment on his document, he'll get an email saying that Whitney York has commented on his document. I may want to leave a little piece of feedback and say, hey, take care of this, or hey, change that. He comes in, he sees the comment, and he goes, okay, I took care of it. So he's going to mark it resolved. Now that doesn't disappear forever. If you saw it, it kind of went up here into the corner. So if I click on my comments button, it will actually open up all of the previous comments. So they're not gone. So you can make a comment for a student, tell them to change something. They resolve it without changing it. And you think, didn't I already tell them to change that item? Yep, you can come up here and see those comments and reopen anything you'd like to reopen. Okay, so that's a great way to give feedback to students. Now, there's another way that we can kind of give feedback as students are working. All right, so for this method of giving feedback, you can actually only do this in docs. So I just want to kind of show you where that works. When you've given students a Google Doc as an assignment, you can actually make suggested edits. And this is good for not just working with students, but if you are working on a document with someone else and you've only given them commenting rights, they're actually able to make suggestions. So in the top right corner, there's a little pencil here, and it is the editing mode. So I have full editing rights to this document. I may only have viewing or suggesting rights or commenting rights, but I can switch between editing, suggesting, and viewing. So if I'm looking, let's say this is a student's assignment, and rather than me actually edit it directly, I want to suggest something. So I'm going to switch to suggestion mode. And I'm going to add in a little note here, and you'll see it turns green. Out to the right, a comment is given here. All right. So I'm giving the student a little note. Hey, I think you need to add this little thing here or do this thing. Or maybe I'm working on a document with someone else. Do you think we should insert this here? And then the person on the other end or the student on the other end can actually say, yeah, I want to add that into the document. So they click on the little check mark and it goes right in. So that's one way to kind of give a suggested edit to a student. I want to show you in a Google Doc what comments look like as well. Let's say I want to highlight this piece of work that they've done. Not only can I go up to insert comment, but I can click this little bubble that popped up over here on the right-hand side to add a comment directly to that piece of text. So it's always good to make sure you have highlighted what you want to add the comment to. That way it's attached to that piece of highlighting. And when the student has a lot of comments out here to the side, it's going to be really easy for them to find what it goes towards, because when they click on it, it'll highlight that area that you have selected ahead of time. So make sure you understand comments, editing and suggesting mode are really helpful as well. Now, the final thing we're going to look at is revision history. This is really important with a group assignment. You really want to make sure that people have done all of their work. This is where it's at. So I'm going to open a particular document to show you what revision history looks like. So this is the high school's shared calendar. This is the document that's heavily used by a lot of people. And just like an assignment you might assign to kids where a lot of people are working on the same thing, sometimes something will happen to that assignment, or you'll need to go back to an older version of that assignment, or you want to see who's done all of their work. And so we're going to use revision history or version history to see all of the work that's been done on this particular document. And this has been used by a lot of people, so it's a great example. So I'm going to go up to File and go to Version History. Now, before we go into the version history, I want to show you this. If you're working on the draft of a document, rather than making multiple copies of it, at any point in time, you can say, all right, I'm just going to stop right here, call this draft 1, and you can name that current version. And then in a second, you'll be able to see all of those versions and go back to any point in time of the document. It's a really handy way, rather than to have a first draft, a rough draft, a final draft, you can have one document with all of those versions inside of it. So I'm going to open up the version history, and this will take just a second to load, but what it's going to do is actually load a history of the document for me. And you'll see as it loads, on the right-hand side, I'm going to start seeing people's names and dates and times. So I'm going to scroll down just a little bit to show you. I'm going to go back to last week when I know I made some changes. So I'm going to click on February 5th at 8:34 p.m. And at that time, I was in this calendar, and I don't know what I was doing or what I was messing with, but, I was fixing something. Let's go back a little bit further. Go back to that morning. And I'm pretty sure that I was putting in test dates. So I'm going to scroll down and see what I added in. Okay, so I added this piece of green text here. Now you can tell that I'm the green text because over on the right, the little square next to my name is green, and you see that I've added that little piece in there. At any time that I click on a version, anybody that's edited that version, I will see their edits in the color next to their name. If there's a few people on that calendar, so let's say there were a few edits at the same time, I can actually pop open this and see each individual edit that was made. Now let's say at a certain time yesterday or the day before, this calendar got completely deleted and Teresa Speed accidentally deleted the whole thing. Well, no big deal. I can go back to any point in time, pick that point in time, and use my blue button up here at the top to restore that version. So you will literally never have students say, she deleted all of my work. you can go back. You will never have a student say, oh, I deleted all of that document, or, oh, it didn't save correctly. That's not a thing that will happen here. You're always able to go back and able to fix and get back to a certain point in time. Now, we don't have any named versions here, but as I mentioned, if you name your versions, you'll see those versions named. All we're seeing are the different dates and times that these were edited. And it's still really, really handy to be able to go back and see who did something or when that was done or who did what amount of work. So when we're looking at a student work here where there's a few kids in a group working on something, you're going to see a lot of one color and a lot of the other. And maybe you're seeing more of one color than the other. So it allows you to make sure that everybody's working on the assignment correctly. And that's version history. So we have one last topic to cover, and that is notifications. If you do not mess with your notifications for Google Classroom, you are going to be getting a whole lot of emails when you first set up your Google Classroom. So this is something you definitely want to check out yourself and check out for your students. There are two types of notifications. So first, let's talk about the one from the website, from Google Classroom. And click my three little lines, scroll all the way down, and click on my settings button. Now, from here, I can choose what notifications are on and off, and you're also going to see what students see. So first, let's take a look at what you can see. Now, these are classes you teach right down here. You want to make sure that on the classes you teach, any of these buttons you have turned on, you're going to get an email about. So if you want to know when students turn in things late, guess what? Every time any kid turns anything late, you're getting an email. Do you want to know when they've submitted things again? They've unsubmitted it and turned it back in. Do you want invitations to co-teach classes? And then do you want notifications in case any of your posts fail? Now, there are other settings up here for comments. These are also teacher-related settings. So you might want to check these out, any comments that you see. And then finally, in the middle here, I'm going to circle that in a different color. These are for classes you're enrolled in. Now, you were enrolled in a class with me, but this is what your students are going to see. So students, do you want to see returned work and grades? Do you want to see invitations for classes? Walk your students through these settings so they make sure they get the right kind of notifications. And all the way up at the top, at the very beginning, we actually have a thing that says receive email notifications, and you can turn that on or off completely. So if you don't want any email notifications, you can do that. Now we're going to talk about the app for just a second and those notifications. All right, so if you don't already have the Google Classroom app, you're going to need to get it, because I don't know about you, but I would much prefer to get pop-ups on my phone about Google Classroom than to get 20,000 emails from my students. So the Google Classroom app is free. It looks a lot like what we're seeing. I'm going to try to show you a little bit of it here. You're going to see all of your classes kind of listed out. You can change your settings, and then you can open any of those classes up, and you're going to see pretty much the same thing that you were seeing on the computer. It's very mobile friendly. It's very easy for you to see. And I'm going to guess that a lot of your students also are going to want to use the Google Classroom app. So you're going to want to make sure that you walk them through downloading the app or show them how to use it. But there is a different set of notifications on your Google Classroom app on your phone. So now I have an iPhone. It might be a little bit different on an Android, but I'm going to show you where these are. So I'm going to click my three little lines in the top left corner. I'm going to scroll all the way down, and I have the exact same settings button. And I'm sorry, this is hard to see. But here, when I click on notifications, I have an entirely different set of things. So I actually have device notifications, and I get a totally different set of things. And what this is going to do, if this clears up, is I can turn on and off. See if you can see that. I can turn on and off. You probably can't see. I put a little thing on my phone. You can turn on and off notifications that are going to pop up on your device. So actually my phone buzzes anytime students comment on posts, and my phone buzzes anytime students turn something in late, but I don't get an email about it. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that popping up on my phone. But remember, these settings are not just for you, they're also for your students. Make sure you walk your students through the settings on Google Classroom for notifications and on their device. If you want every time you post something, your students to get a little ding, you want to make sure they have the notifications turned on their phone, because likely that's where they're going to be getting their notifications and not from their school email. So that's your settings. You want to make sure those are all set up ahead of time so you don't get a ton of emails and you don't get a bunch of little pop-ups from kids if that's not what you want.